Are you take? Do we have a conflict? Is that Lolita? I have it booked at 30.
Interesting. It just let me reserve it.
Oh yeah, I think it's just like a weird time lag because I reserved it like an hour ago.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. Hey everyone, this is Daniel from the Uber team. I'll be running the webinar today. Looks like there's a couple of you in the room already. I'm just going to give it a couple minutes for other folks to stream in before starting. For those of you who are here already and tuning in, how this is going to work today, I've got some content that I'll be walking through, some useful information for new and early partners to know and understand. But the bulk of the time later on will actually be spent on a question and answer session. So I have a bunch of more frequently asked questions that I'll go through in an FAQ portion. But after that, would love to save time to answer any further, more specific questions that any of you might have. And you can feel free to start entering those questions that you have in the chat box, the live chat box next to the video at any point. I will probably work on answering those only toward the end, but I promise you that I will get to those at some point before the session is over. So again, feel free to pop that in the chat at any time. And just going to give it another half minute for any late stragglers to get in, and then I'll get started. All right. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. If you're having any issues hearing what I'm saying, if you want me to go over any content again, if you missed it, feel free to call that out as well, and I will be sure to address any comments that you might have. But why don't we go ahead and get started today? So before diving in, just wanted to give you a sense for my goals today. Essentially, this is going to be sort of an Uber 101 session where I'd love to go over some information that's useful for partners in the earlier stage of our partnership. And my biggest goal is really to make you feel absolutely prepared to take your first trip out there on a road, or if you've already taken a first trip, gotten a few under your belt, but you have some concerns, to really help allay those concerns and help you work through any questions that you might have with regards to anything that's affecting you while you're on the road, taking trips, etc. I want to be that resource to you to make sure that you're feeling supported and have the information that you need, particularly in this earlier part of our partnership. So again, feel free to leverage me as a resource. I will answer any and all questions you have. There's no such thing as a question that's too small or too insignificant, so just feel free to put that in the chat at any time. But without further ado, I'll start getting into some of the more prepared content I have, and then we'll get into some questions and answers later on. All right. Now, for starters, I wanted to kick this off by making sure that everyone was aware of some of the more important resources that we have available for partners. So on this page, you'll see probably two of the most important links for you there. On the left-hand side is the General Partner Help Portal. So this is help.uber.com/partners. So a help portal specific with content to help you out. Here you'll find a repository of useful articles, a search box that you can type into with any question you might have. Put in those keywords, and a list of potential questions and topics should populate, and you can see if any of those are helpful with answering your question. Of course, in the event that something that a question you have isn't addressed by this page, you can always feel free to submit a ticket, and a support agent will try to get back to you with some answers within 24 to 48 hours. And this is also something that you can access through your partner app. If you haven't already used the app, the driver app has 4 tabs below, and on one of those tabs, there's a help section that you can go into. Similarly, lists a lot of topics, and if there's none that's addressed, you can always just start a ticket through the menu that way, and write in your questions there. So that's the first really important resource to take note of. The second resource that I wanted to bring your attention to here on the right, please ignore the mislabeled title there. It should say the Connecticut Partner website. The link there is right though. If you go to uber.com/drive/Connecticut, you'll see a page as shown in the screenshot over there, with a bunch of sublinks to different topics that are useful. In my opinion, the most important things on this page that you could access include the where to drive section, where we give some recommendations, specific to certain parts of the state, that are good spots for driving, whether that's specific areas in Stamford or New London, Hartford, etc. And there's also a contact Uber section where we actually list out some ways to get in touch with us in person. And to go into more detail with regards to that, if you click on the Contact Us page, which you can also get to by visiting uber.com/drive/Connecticut/contact, you'll actually be able to access a list of our Greenlight hubs and Greenlight hubs and spots. And what Greenlight locations are basically our in-person support centers where you can visit us to talk to one of our support experts in person and get questions solved by someone in person. So if you really want to be able to talk to someone in person about any issues you have, feel free to give us a visit. We've tried to set up locations all across the state so that no matter where you live, you'll have somewhere to go that's not too far off. The difference between the hub, which is in Stamford, and the spots that are kind of scattered along other locations is that the Stamford location is open almost every day, Mondays through Fridays, and I believe Saturdays as well. But the spots, while open either weekly or every other week, are going to be less frequent. So they might be like one day in a week or one day every 2 weeks. And so the best way to keep track of that is really to go to the contact page. We keep that updated on a weekly basis, so you can check out what spots are going to be open in any given week and make sure to check the hours there before making a trip over. So this is the third resource that I highly recommend referencing. If you ever have concerns, come talk to us in person. All right. And with those resources out of the way, wanted to get into some content before the FAQ. So it's going to be a few key basic topic areas that I talk through. And if this isn't new to you, bear with me. I'll be fairly succinct, and we should move through this section pretty quickly. First thing is, how does the app work? How do you accept and take a trip? So it's actually fairly simple. If you haven't used the Partner app yet, when you open it, the interface will look something like the screenshot you see on the first image on the left. There's 4 tabs below: Home, Earnings, Ratings, Account. You'll by default be looking at the Home tab, which shows your location on the map around you, and some cards with information towards the bottom of the screen, which you can kind of scroll through as there's some useful stuff there. And then a banner on top that states your online or offline status. So you'll of course be offline when you first open the app. And the first thing that you're going to do once you're ready to start driving is to kind of toggle that status to say go online. And once you're online, your screen should look like what you see in the second picture, where it'll state that you're now online, and that's when you'll be ready to accept requests. And the way it works is when there's a request that's in your vicinity, that's close to you, that comes up, you'll see that eventually pop onto your screen. And that's what's going to be shown on the third image. And when a request comes through, it'll show you, roughly how far away that request is and the address. And all you have to do is tap on the screen to accept it. And then it'll transition to an on-trip set of instructions for you to follow thereafter. So pretty simple stuff. Once you've accepted a trip, there's going to be step-by-step instructions. Not to worry. The app will tell you exactly where to navigate to pick up your rider. And once you get to your rider, there will be a clear slider that says slide here to start trip. And then it'll navigate you to the destination of the rider. And once you get there, there'll be a slider button that says slide here to end trip. And so there will be very clear instructions all along the way. And so hopefully you'll feel comfortable about the app being pretty easy to use there. And if you really want to get a sense for how that's going to feel before taking the actual trip, a couple links here down below for you to check out. I would suggest going to t.uber.com/iOS trip. The link on the bottom right there. That'll actually pull up in your browser an interactive simulation of what the app looks like while on a trip. So you can see the stages that it'll go through if you were to take a pretend trip with a rider. So that could be helpful for getting you comfortable with the app before actually getting on the road. Okay. Now with that, next topic I wanted to talk through was around insurance. This is definitely a very, very important topic for us. We want to make sure that we have you covered and that you understand that coverage. So, at a high level, the way to understand it, you can think about it as 3 different phases that you're in while you're in your car. There's when you're not using the app, so you're offline on the app. And that's when that's when you're basically a private citizen using your vehicle, and you should only depend on your own personal insurance. There is no additional coverage from Uber when you're not using the app. And then when you are using the app, that's when Uber's additional layer of commercial insurance kicks in. So the moment you go online, so remember that banner on top, once you toggle it to say online, a baseline amount of liability coverage kicks in. And this is going to be at or above state levels, state requirements. And so it'll be about 50K injury, 100K total, and 25K property contingent coverage between trips. So that's when you're online but are not taking a trip. And then the moment you accept the trip, and you don't even have to have the rider in your vehicle yet, but the moment you accept the trip request, through the moment you end the trip request, the additional higher tier of coverage kicks in, and where you'll be covered up to 1 million in liability, and as well as collision at any time, after you've accepted a trip to when you ended that trip. And so, hopefully that should, make you feel very comforted that the insurance layer the layer of insurance coverage that we provide is fairly comprehensive. I want to make sure that you're feeling covered, and really that starts the moment you go online, and the moment you accept the trip request, that you should feel really safe about that there. It's the only thing that you would need to take care of while on a trip is the typical deductible, which is at $1,000, but everything beyond that will be covered, including collision. And if you want to take a look at a more detailed explanation or the fine print, feel free to visit t.uber.com/insurance. The link I've listed down below. To see this listed in black and white on our page. Okay, moving on from insurance, the next thing I wanted to talk about was the partner dashboard. So this is going to be a pretty important resource and a resource that you visit frequently during your partnership with us. And so to access this is really simple, easy link to remember, partners.uber.com. Visit that on any browser and log in with your Uber credentials, and you will see an interface that looks like the screenshot we have on the left here. Over there, you'll be able to access your weekly pay statements and any information about your instant pay, banking, your banking information. Tax season's coming up, so if you wanted to download your 1099 forms, this is also where you'd go. And just lots of great information summarized for you in one place. And this can be accessed through partners.uber.com, but also through your driver app. So if you go back to your driver app, there's 4 tabs down below. Just click on that second tab that says earnings, and it should show you a similar view in-app. So definitely take advantage and remember to the partners.uber.com as a useful resource whenever you want to look at things like your earnings and any similar information. Next up, we have safety. So quick few comments on safety. This is something we really emphasize. Safety is probably our number one priority. The Uber platform we would not be able to gain the trust of either riders or our driver partners, if we weren't able to contribute to a safe environment. And so we really focus on facilitating a safe experience for everyone on the platform. And you can really think of the different elements that contribute to safety in this way. So first of all, the rating system is a big thing for us. We give all of you driver partners the control to rate riders. We require that you rate riders after every trip on a scale of 1 to 5 stars, and you're also able to put in verbatim comments to provide us with more details about what went wrong or right with the trip. And we really care about that feedback because if there's any riders that are demonstrating any really negative behaviors that we don't want for a member of the community, that's something that we want to keep. We want to build a case against, and it's really important for us to get that information from you, so we can identify those riders and potentially kick them off the platform and deny them access to the platform. And so that's really important for us. But on the other hand, because the system is in place, that's how we ensure that we are continually maintaining the level of quality and safety around the users of our platform both ways. Secondly, another big element is the fact that there's simply no such thing as a random pickup. To use Uber either as a driver or a rider, you basically have to input information into the system. Drivers, you guys go through background checks. Riders, in order to use the platform, you have to input your payment information, your email, your name, other personal information like that. And so on the system, it's very clear who is using the platform to get a ride at any point. So before you even get to your rider, you'll be able to see what that rider's name is. You'll be able to see a picture of what that rider looks like in order to verify that that's the right person that you're picking up when you get there. You'll be able to see their average rating. So there's a lot less unknowns that are involved with the pickup process. And so this really helps in contributing to that safe platform as well. And then the third thing that we really like about the platform that helps with safety is that it's completely cashless for the most part in our market. The riders are required to input their either debit or credit card information into the platform, and all payments are done automatically and charged automatically. And so there's no risk on the partner's part of having a carry or a lot of cash or make change for riders. And so this is a really important element of safety for our platform as well. So all in all, we have your back. Safety is really important for us, and hopefully these having a better understanding of how the platform works will help put you at ease as well. And again, definitely don't want to reiterate that we love hearing from you guys. And so when you're taking trips, definitely put in any feedback you have on riders, whether positive or negative, so that we have a good sense of what goes on, and are able to better control for who has access to our platform as a rider. Okay, now moving on from safety, another hot topic that I'm sure a lot of partners have is how can I maximize my earnings? Well, it's there's definitely certainly going to be a lot of things that go into it. For instance, there's no such thing as a typical driver. Everyone has their own needs and goals, and some are part time, some are more full time. Some have certain restrictions on when they can drive and where they can drive, and all those factors are going to influence the earnings to expect. So there's no one size fits all solution here, but certainly there are some areas of guidance that you can think about in ways to influence your earnings a little bit. So the two most important things, of course, are going to be when you drive and where you drive. And so to provide some guidance there, if you look at the top left-hand side, we gave some indication of some good times to drive. And the way to think about that really is on weekdays, the most important times you want to take advantage of are the commute hours, the commute rush hours. So in the morning, you'll see listed there on the page 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Although in practice, that could even start even earlier. If you're willing and able to start at 5 or 6 a.m., those are certainly great hours to take advantage of folks that are looking for a trip to the train station, to the airport, to make their commute to work, and to also take advantage to tap into a base of riders that are using the platform for business purposes. So certainly good time to be on the road in the early morning commute hours. And the same thing can be said about the evening rush hour. We believe that starts from 4 p.m. and extends generally through about 7 p.m. On weekends, which really starts Friday evening through Sunday, that's just going to be a generally busy period. So you'll see here listed on the page, 4 p.m. through all the way through the early hours of the morning, 3 a.m. on Friday nights, going to be busy. The same can be said about Saturday. But on Saturday and Sunday as well, given their weekend days, folks are gonna be out and about from late morning through end of day in general. So weekends overall are pretty good times to drive. And besides day-to-day hours, there's also another good thing to keep in mind is events and other big shocks that might influence rider behavior. So a couple of things there. One is around weather. Whenever there's rain, snow, or any sort of inclement weather, you can guarantee that that's going to cause an increase in rider requests, as folks are going to want to get around via an Uber ride versus other means. And that's certainly the case. And so if you're willing and able to drive during those periods, certainly lots of great fares to take advantage of. Another big thing is events and holidays. And for these things, you'll probably receive messaging from us as well to let you know that these things are about to happen. If there's any super big concerts or sporting events or festivals that might take place, we'll probably let you know. But you can look ahead and think about those things yourself as well. For instance, if you know of a big Beyonce concert coming up, you can bet that at that concert venue on day of, there's going to be a lot of folks trying to get around via Uber. Similar to that, holidays are a big driver of rider demand. New Year's is probably the biggest day for Uber. and followed closely by Halloween. But really, those two being huge outliers aside, other holidays are generally very busy days as well. So if you happen to have some downtime and aren't busy celebrating yourself, could be a good time to consider driving and taking advantage of some pretty good fares then. All right. Okay, just a couple more topics here. Wanted to talk through a little bit about Surge and what you're going to see on the driver app. So the screenshots here may be slightly dated, and also may vary a little bit from the specific version and phone that you're working with, but it's going to be similar. When you open the driver app and you're online, some parts of the map you may see as shaded a certain intensity of yellow, orange, or red, and that's going to indicate that in that area, prices are going at a higher multiple than regular. And so what surge really means is that what that happens when there's kind of a mismatch between the number of riders that are requesting trips and the number of drivers in that area that are available to accept trips. If there's a lot more riders than there are available drivers, the surge multiple goes up. So say it goes to 2x, then a fare there with would be charged at 2 times the typical base and the typical per mile and per minute rate from there, and so the rider would need to pay 2 times the amount he would if in the case of there was no surge, and if you happen to pick up that fare would also be worth 2 times as much for you. And so for the driver partner, if you happen to be taking a fare that is surged, that's a good thing for you. That certainly increases your earnings, and so that's generally a positive thing from your perspective. The one thing I would say on surge is while it's there and you'll be able to see where that is on the map. I would caution against chasing specific areas with surge specifically as you see them. Reason being that surge changes over time as the conditions in the market change. So you never know if the surge multiple or even the amount of the fact that it's surging at all will change by the time you get to an area. So you might end up expending gas and time to get to a place only to have the surge disappear. So I wouldn't actively chase surge minute to minute, but I would just understand that it's there and take advantage of it if it happens to be surging in the area that you're driving. And you can bet that if you're driving during busy times, busy periods, and busy places, you'll probably naturally run into areas of surge. And so just know that that's there. Know that that's going to help your earnings in some way. Don't try too hard to chase it, but and enjoy it if you do happen to get fares that do surge. All right. So that kind of wraps up the prepared content that I had. Before we get into some questions, I do see that some questions have started streaming in. Wanted to go over a list of some of the more frequently asked ones we get. Once I get through these, I'll start moving back over to the comments and start answering your specific ones. So hopefully you gain something out of the FAQs, and if not, type that question into the chat box, and I'll be sure to answer that by the end of the session. All right, so getting into the prepared list we have here. So firstly, how long should I wait for a rider? So our guidance here is that you should wait at least 5 minutes for the rider, and it probably makes sense if you show up at the rider's pickup destination and pick up the location, wait for a minute or two. Probably makes sense to give them a courtesy text or a call to check on them at that point. Sometimes you might not see a rider, and it's simply because the rider made a mistake and showed up at the wrong spot. Sometimes there might be GPS issues, so it's always worth trying to connect with the rider within that 5-minute window. If after the 5 minute window you've tried getting in touch with them and they still haven't shown up, you can go ahead and cancel the trip at that point and report it as a no-show, and that'll be an option in the app that you'll see when you make the cancellation. And when that happens, the rider will be charged $5, and that'll be passed on to you for the inconvenience. And from there, you can move on. Second question. What if there are multiple stops and a rider changes the destination during the trip? So the answer there is that's totally fine. Not to worry there. This happens, probably happens pretty frequently. Riders change their mind, or things change during a trip, and that's totally fine. Know that your fare will always be based on your base fare plus a per mile and per minute increment. And so, even if the destination changes, you will still get your fare payment that's based on the time and distance taken on the actual route that you take. And so that shouldn't affect anything for you. The only thing I'd call out is if there are certain situations where a rider might ask that you bring them to one destination, wait for them, and then continue on a trip somewhere else. If they're being unreasonable and asking to wait for a long period of time, I'd say anything longer than 5 to 10 minutes is a little long. That might not make sense for you, mainly because you're going to be paid a lot more per mile than you're going to be paid per minute. So any wait time that's longer than 5 or 10 minutes probably isn't worth it for you, and riders probably shouldn't be asking that of you anyway. So in those instances, I'd ask the rider to kindly end the trip, which you would do on your part, and then for them to request another Uber once they're done with their business at that first destination. But if there's no excessive wait times, even if the destination changes, that's probably a good thing, in that you get a longer ride and higher utilization, and so more earnings within that given hour for you. Third question: what if a rider makes a mess in my car? So this is pretty important. In situations like that, it's very important that you, as soon as possible, take very clear pictures of the mess. I would recommend taking at least 2 to 3 pictures. Make sure that the lighting is good, that the picture quality is good, and from there, you can, in your driver app, click into your trip history, click on the associated trip with the rider that made the mess. Indicate that you have an issue with the trip and that rider, and then there will be an option for you to request a cleaning fee. Once you go into that, you'll be able to type in a message to give us the details around what happened. You'll be able to attach the pictures to that message and shoot that over to us, and someone should be able to get back to you within 24 to 48 hours to help you get a cleaning fee reimbursed. Fourth question: what if too many people try to get in my car? So from time to time, this might happen. The thing to do here will be to politely explain to the rider that the policy is that you can only fit as many passengers in your car as you have passenger seatbelts. That's just the law. Anything beyond that puts you at risk, and that's unfair to you. And so they need to understand that. So if you have 4 passenger seatbelts available, that's the maximum party size for the rider. If there's a large group, you can. One thing that we encourage is taking advantage of that opportunity to let them know that they should request a second Uber. And if there's anyone in the group that hasn't requested an Uber ride before, this is an opportunity for you to actually share your rider side app referral code with them, and that way both of you will get a ride credit. So that could be a win-win situation there. Okay, a couple more questions here. Fifth question: can you explain the difference between UberX, XL, Premium, and SUV? So basically, what is the difference between all these product types? So it really depends on the type of car that you drive. By default, all partners in Connecticut will be doing Uber X Rides, which is our baseline product, our baseline peer-to-peer ride-sharing product. If you drive a larger vehicle that's able to accommodate more passenger seatbelts, you may qualify for XL. And that, I believe, is where you have 7+ seatbelts available. And that's certainly going to be for rides for those will come at a higher fare. So if you happen to have a vehicle that's large enough for those rides, good for you. Be able to take advantage of some higher fares here and there. Premium and SUV, that is a different beast in that to qualify for that, there's two conditions. One, you have to have a vehicle that's from our list of qualifying vehicles, which is actually fairly extensive. And to see if your vehicle qualifies, you should actually check out our Connecticut website. Again, at uber.com/drive/Connecticut. If your vehicle qualifies, and if you meet our ratings requirements, I forget if it's a 4.7 or 4.8 rating, average rating, then you'll be able to receive premium ride requests, and those certainly have higher fares as well. And so great to take advantage of. So if you have a vehicle that qualifies, you work hard to keep a high rating, you'll be able to take advantage of those fares. And SUV is really the premium version of XL. Okay, next question. How do I get paid? How does that work? And how much can I expect to earn? So I kind of alluded to this earlier. So in terms of earnings expectations, there's really no great short answer there that applies as a blanket statement to everyone, because it really depends on how often you're going to be driving, where you're going to be driving, and at what hours you're going to be willing to drive. And so that's really going to vary from person to person. However, if you think about the guiding principles of taking advantage of the best potential hours to drive, and hotspots to drive, which again you can find at our Connecticut website, that's going to help you earn more than you otherwise would on an hourly basis. And in terms of how payments work, that's going to be done on a weekly basis, so via direct deposit to the bank account that you link to your Uber account. And that's going to happen every Thursday. So, and you can check your weekly pay statement again via your partner dashboard at partners.uber.com. Okay, next question. Can I have my spouse or another passenger in my vehicle while giving rides? So, unfortunately, the straightforward answer there is no. And there's a couple of reasons there. When you're operating on the Uber platform, remember you're the only one that passed the background check. Not your spouse, not your friend, not the other passenger in your vehicle. And so while you're operating on a platform, in order to remain compliant, it has to be only you. And the other reason is that, as on the rider side, when they request a ride, they're entitled to have a party size that's as large as the number of passenger seatbelts that you have in your vehicle. And so if you have someone else that's taking up one of those spots, that's gonna hinder the rider's ability to have their party fit in your vehicle. So again, that's not going to be in accordance to policy here. So unfortunately, no extra passengers in the vehicle while you're working on the platform. Okay, and finally, how do taxes work? So as you know, as an independent contractor, you'll need to be responsible for filing your own taxes. What you will be able to do is retrieve the 1099 forms from your partner dashboard, again at partners.uber.com. You'll be able to get those as a PDF file that you can download onto your computer and print. And from there on, you can use those as reference as you file your taxes. Unfortunately, Uber is not able to provide you with any legal tax advice, but I do believe that we recently started partnering with an app called Stride. So that's something that you can look into. The Stride app If you indicate that you're an Uber partner, I believe you could get either a free membership there or at a reduced rate, which you take advantage of to get some tax advice. Okay. Oh, sorry. Just a couple more before we get to the comments. These should be quick. So the first one is, where can I drive as a Connecticut partner? So we're at the current point in time, if you're a Connecticut P2P driver, you'll be able to drive anywhere in the state of Connecticut, of course. Also anywhere in the state of New Jersey, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. You cannot drive in the state of New York unless you happen to have a commercial license through TLC, in which case then you could. But for most Connecticut partners, you will not be able to. You will be able to pick up a passenger in Connecticut or Jersey, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and drop off in New York, but you won't be able to pick up in the state of New York. So that's the current state now. There may be changes coming up that might affect Connecticut partners' ability to do pickups in Massachusetts. That may or may not happen depending on how regs shape up there. But for now, these are the 4 states where you'll be able to do pickups and drop-offs. Okay, now who pays for tolls? So if you drive through any toll, the toll amount will get deducted from your E-ZPass first, but the rider is the one that ultimately needs to pay for it. So this will actually automatically be charged the rider through their fare, and then you will then be credited for that cost. So while it registers to your E-ZPass first, you will be reimbursed for that from the rider. The other thing to take note of is if you ever do a pickup in Connecticut and happen to drop off in one of the 5 boroughs of New York, so Manhattan, Staten Island, Brooklyn, Queens, or the Bronx, then you also are entitled to a $15 credit. Just kind of help out, with the fact that you kind of have to return empty-handed. Note that this doesn't apply to drop-off in the closer upstate New York areas, only in the boroughs. Okay, finally, do I have to log a minimum number of hours? The answer is absolutely not. The beautiful thing about being an independent contractor, about being a partner, is that you are absolutely your own boss. No one needs to tell you what you can or can't do. So you are free to make your own hours. You can use the Uber platform when and wherever you want. When you feel like earning money, just turn on the app, go online, and start taking trips. When you don't feel like it, just go offline. There's no minimum amounts required. Though the one piece of guiding recommendation we have is that you complete at least one trip every 30 days if you want to keep your account active. Otherwise, it might go inactive, and you have to get in touch to get that reactivated, which might be a little bit of a hassle. But one trip every 30 days is hopefully not too hard to fulfill. Okay, I'm about to flip back to the comment questions now. Before I do that, just wanted to keep the screen on this last slide as a recap for you of some of the useful resources to take advantage of. So these are links that you can take down. I will type these into the chat shortly as well. So again, the 4 big links that I would point you to. First one is the General Partner Help Portal, help.uber.com/partners. There's a lot of good information there, and there's an ability to search through articles, so definitely take advantage of that. That's also something that you can access through your partner app, through account and then help. Second resource will be the Connecticut-specific partner website, uber.com/drive/Connecticut. Again, my favorite things that you can check out there are, first of all, where and when to drive, any Connecticut-specific resources, such as where to find our in-person support. And because in-person support is such a big thing and so important, I wanted to call that out as number 3 in particular as well. So that's just a step deeper at uber.com/drive/Connecticut/contact. Be sure to check it out for our locations and our hours before making a trip to come see us. But feel free to visit for any questions or issues that you want to talk through in person about, and we'll be happy to assist you there. And finally, 4, insurance is an important topic for you. And so if you wanna read more of the black and white around what's covered, please feel free to go to t.uber.com/insurance as well as uber.com/drive/insurance, and you'll find all the necessary information there. Okay, I'm about to go into to the comment questions. And the last call out I wanted to give was if you have any feedback about this webinar experience so far, have any suggestions for improvement, please feel free to also go to that link on the right, t.uber.com/njyoutubefb to fill in a quick survey to leave any comments you might have for me. All right. Okay, so now I'm going to flip over to the live chat and get some questions answered for you. So first one I'm seeing here is from Michael. So Michael asks, while delivering food for Uber, is there a way to take another call while already on a call? So once I complete the present call, can I immediately begin the next delivery? So so the way I'm understanding your question, Michael, let me know if I'm misunderstanding it. Is there a way to accept another request before you've even completed your current trip for food deliveries? Now the answer here is I know for ride sharing. So if you're doing a ride that's not a food delivery, we definitely do. There definitely is forward dispatch in place, which means that if there's a trip request that's close to where you're about to end your trip, it's possible for you to receive that before you've even ended your current trip, and that just helps with that's helpful in making the process more efficient for you, such that you're constantly on the trip. Once you've ended your current trip, you've already accepted your next one. I'm not completely sure if they've enabled that for food deliveries. They might have. But if that is a feature that's already in place, nothing you need to do. You will get those requests in advance if they're ever available in your area. If not, that might be a feature that's on its way, and so hang tight on that one. Okay, and another question from Michael was, so far on delivery, no one has tipped. While delivering food at the end, can we ask for a tip or no? So Eats being part of the broader Uber platform, and our general stance is as a driver, while it's okay to accept tips, it's not okay to ask for it. That is our general policy. So unfortunately, you won't be able to proactively ask for it from the rider. Or in this case, the delivery customer. Hopefully, we'll see if that behavior of the general behavior of the delivery customer changes over time. But unfortunately, at the moment, it is a bit of a no-no for the courier to ask for the tip. Next question is coming from Richard. Do you have any archived webinars or training webinars? Yes, so Richard, I would point you to 2 resources. One is this current channel where we're doing this live stream right now. If you go into that account, I believe the weekly sessions from past weeks are automatically archived in our account, so you can check out those videos. Although it's going to be very repetitive, it's going to be the exact same content up front that I covered today, although the live questions that are asked might change week to week. But if you're curious, you can certainly check those out. The other account to check out would be the general global Uber YouTube account. That's going to have a lot of great videos. Some of them are going to be a little outdated, but there's all sorts of stuff there, from tutorials on how to use the partner app, to ads to campaigns that we run, to other instructionals, etc. That one's there's quite a lot of videos there, and is used by a lot of teams, and might not be the best organized. But if you look through those, there might be some gems in there if there's certain information that you're looking for. Another question from Michael: are we supposed to deliver drinks along with the order of food? because last night I had a delivery with multiple drinks with the food. The answer, Michael, is I believe I'm aware of the fact that we were looking into adding drinks to the menu of Eats restaurants that we do deliveries for. It may have rolled out. If you got an order that included drinks, that means that it's currently rolled out, and yes, it is absolutely fine for you to be delivering those um, according to policy. So no worries there. Okay, another question from Richard. Is there a way of speaking directly with someone at Uber in Stanford? The answer is yes. Richard, one of our biggest Greenlight locations is in Stanford. That's our main hub. So if you go to our partner website at uber.com/drive/Connecticut/contact, you'll be able to see the location of our Stanford Greenlight hub there and visit during opening hours. And I believe the Stanford location is actually open Mondays through Fridays, maybe even Saturdays as well. So that's probably a pretty easy place to visit. So I recommend checking that one out. We have a very helpful team on the ground there. Okay, we've got a question from Scott saying, I have a CDL passenger. Does that count for New York pickup? I'm sorry, Scott. I'm having a little trouble understanding the question here. First of all, by CDL, I'm assuming you're referring to commercial driver's license. So are you saying you have a commercial driver's license? And if that's the case, are you asking about whether you qualify for a New York pickup? If you're still here and listening, let me know what you were thinking there in the comments, and I'll try to address your question more specifically. In the meantime, I see another question from Richard. That's can a rider request a partner driver? Richard, let me know if I'm interpreting your question right here. I'm assuming you're asking whether a rider can request a specific partner driver. If that's the case, the answer is no. You can't request a specific partner. It's a very democratic platform where riders are matched with partners that are closest to the vicinity, and there's no favoritism, so to speak. And it makes sense from a fairness perspective, and also makes sense for both riders and drivers that you're matched with someone who's closest to you. And so there's no way for a rider to request a specific partner. There is the opposite situation though, which is if you ever have a super negative experience with a partner, with a rider, and you rate them 1 stars on that trip. First of all, we want to know if that was a really bad experience, and we'd love to hear why. So please let us know why. And while we investigate, not only will we investigate that situation, that rider, but in the meantime, you will, even if that rider remains on the platform, you will never be paired with that rider again. So that's one situation which is the opposite, where even if you're close to that rider in the future for some reason, you won't get matched with that person. But the opposite, where the rider requests a specific partner, cannot happen. Okay, so Scott has added some detail. He's saying, if I do a drop-off in New York with my commercial driver's license, does that entitle me to pick up a passenger from New York as well? So Scott, if you have a TLC license that allows you to operate commercial in the state of New York, I believe that then yeah, you absolutely can. But you gotta make sure that that you're fulfilling the commercial requirements of New York State. But if that really is the case, then good for you. You'll indeed be able to operate across all those markets. Another question from Scott: what is the pay scale? Okay, so I guess what you're really saying is what is the range of earnings to be expected? So again, there's no easy answer there. the earnings really varies from partner to partner, just because you're going to see partners that are on a wide range on the spectrum, ranging from super part time to super full time. Those that only drive in Stamford to those that only drive in New London. Those that only drive during the rush morning and evening rush hours, to those that only drive during the middle of the day, depending on maybe their restrictions, their timing restrictions. So it really varies. So unfortunately, like there's no easy way for me to answer that. Um, but yeah, the only guidance I can give you there is if you think you're able to take advantage of the best, most lucrative hours to drive, and in great locations, um, then you're probably going to be able to take advantage of the higher end of that scale, so to speak. Okay, so I see a further clarification from Scott. You're saying your percentage versus mine from a writer. Okay, Scott. Again, let me know if I'm understanding correctly. I'm gonna assume that you're asking about how that fare is allocated on any given ride. How much goes to your pocket versus Uber. And so the answer there is the service fee that Uber administers is 25%. So the fare that you're going to get on any given ride is the base fare for the ride plus the number of minutes times the per minute and the number of miles times per mile. That gives a total fare, and 75% of that will hit the driver's pocket gross. And then 25% of that is the Uber service fee. And that's gonna be slightly different than what the rider sees on their end. But as a driver, you're gonna be consistently the fare that you're gonna consistently get is always gonna be based on the base fare plus the per mile and the per distance, and 75% of that. Yeah, no problem, Richard and Scott. Happy to help. Um, Just do a quick time check here. I see that we're closing in on just about an hour. Still see a handful of folks in the room right now. Hopefully this session was helpful for you guys to get some questions answered. I'm going to stick around for as long as people still have questions. So if there is anything that you still like to know that I haven't covered, please feel free to input that into the chat, and I will be happy to help you out with those. I don't have a hard cutoff, so I can certainly stay on for a little longer to answer any questions you might have. Okay, see Richard has added another question here. He's saying, demographically, can Uber tell me where more drivers are needed? So, okay, I'm guessing, Richard, this is gonna be specific to the state of Connecticut. So that's a tough question to answer in a nutshell. Where drivers are needed, well, let me answer it this way. I think what you'd love to know probably is, where does it make most sense for you to drive to take advantage of consistent demand and hopefully higher and consistent fares. And then naturally, I get why you would ask, where more drivers needed, because that might match up well. And so here's the thing: where we have less drivers in the state may not be where you get the best fares. For example, if you think about the I-95 belt, that's gonna cover the majority of where our ride requests are coming from, and also where our driver partners are operating. So anywhere from Greenwich Stamford area up through New Haven, bending upwards, all through Harvard and Windsor Locks and beyond. So that stretch is really quite densely packed. And Danbury is another big pocket. And Richard, I know you just mentioned you're in the Danbury area, so that's another pocket. That's kind of that, and plus the I-95 belt, and then there's New London, Mystic area at the side. And if you think about it, where there are less partners are going to be the more sparsely populated areas. So the more spread out suburbs and the places that are further away from that highway belt. But on the other hand, where you're gonna do best driving is probably actually not in the more sparsely populated areas, but where it is more densely populated. So if you're in Danbury, driving in Danbury probably makes sense. If you wanna stray from Danbury, anywhere along that I-95 belt is always going to make sense. Where you within those specific areas. So if you're specifically in Danbury or if you're specifically in Stamford, etc., it might be helpful to check out again the Connecticut Partner website. We've listed a couple good areas within those cities and geos that are spots where you're likely to get requests. So those are kind of good spots to kind of hover around as you're waiting for rides. Hopefully that answers your question a little bit. Let me know if I misunderstood or there's more detail that'd be useful for you. Okay, I see another question from Scott. What are the best areas to park in New Haven to wait for a rider? Okay, so this is going back to what I just mentioned in terms of the where best places to drive in specific cities. Again, if you go to the Connecticut website, we have a section for where to drive. I believe we have some spots listed in for New Haven. So if you're not on a current trip, and if you cruise around or find a spot to wait that are close to those locations we suggest, that's probably a good starting point. Otherwise, I know New Haven in general, within the city limits, is fairly busy overall. So I don't think you're going to have too much trouble in just that general metropolitan area of New Haven. Big college town, pretty densely packed, lots of people getting around. So should be good rides all around. But certainly check out that website for a list of specific spots if you're interested. No problem, Richard. Have a great weekend too. Alrighty, guys. I see that we're slowly starting to dwindle out of the room. Just a handful of you guys left. Again, if you have any last-minute questions, feel free to put those into the chat. I'm going to stick around for a few more minutes, see if any questions come in. If you have them, don't feel shy. I'm more than happy to try to help you answer them here today. But before you log off, again, if you have any further questions that after the session that you want answered, a couple things. One is we hold this every week at this time. So if you tune in next week at 4:30. Either me or someone else on the team will be here to run the same webinar, answer any live questions then. The second thing is you can always feel free to visit us in person. If you want to talk to someone, again, check out those links I have listed up here right now for a list of those locations and business hours. Also, our partner help portal, as well as that's accessible through the website or the partner app. Have lots of great information there, so you can always browse through there, do a search, look through some articles to see if they have the information that you need. And yeah, that's about it. Hopefully this was really helpful for some of you guys. If you haven't taken the first trip yet, hope this helped you feel a little bit more prepared to take that first trip. You've already got some trips under your belt, but just had some questions that you wanted answered. Hopefully this helped with that and allayed any concerns or fears that you might have had. Okay, just gonna let this run for maybe another minute or so. Last call for for questions, guys. So if you have any, feel free to put them into the comments next to the video. Okay, not seeing any more comments come in the live chat, so I'm going to take it that everyone who wanted to ask a question has asked one already. In that case, I'm gonna close out this session. Again, check out the resources I have on the page. You know, we're gonna be holding this again next week, same time. If you want to tune in, feel free to visit us in person if you'd like. Otherwise, I'm just about to sign off. Hope you have a great weekend ahead. Hope you take advantage of the fairs out there soon if you haven't already. And if you haven't taken the first trip yet, go try it out. See how you feel about it. Good luck and stay safe on the road. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Bye-bye.